think I could?
Oh my god. Yeah, oh my god. You guys are too much and too funny. I like this. Vin's not starting with any music. Forget music. Music's super overrated.
Play that bitch.
Oh, yeah.
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York.
You know the owner of the Atlanta Hawks made this song?
The owner of the Atlanta Hawks made the original version.
Made this song.
Who owns the Atlanta Hawks?
The guy who made this song.
Arthur Blank? No?
That's the Falcons. That's why they mentioned the Hawks first. He knew.
He didn't own it yet at that time.
But he knew he was buying it. He was manifesting.
Yeah, what happened to Trae Young?
He's been hurt for a while.
I know.
Welcome everybody to the show.
I know.
Welcome to the show. Hey, we're back. It's another week. Mill does all of her post game. She's the real all-star. Me and Ange and Vin just show up occasionally on Mondays to tell you all that the Knicks are number one, baby. They're going to win everything. They're going to win the whole damn thing. I don't care about injuries. I don't care about matchups. I don't care about Stephen A. Smith or Candace Parker or John Hollinger or Gilbert Arenas or Jalen Green turning up. I don't care about none of that because the Knicks are number one, baby. Ange,
You just
how do you
scared
feel if
everyone.
you were a Nets fan? Nets suck, right?
The only thing I hate about the Nets is that they charged me like $75 for parking when me and Vinny and all the whole gang went. And that place is, I don't know. Seats are great. Food sucks. Not even close to the fucking arena that Madison Square Garden is. Madison Square Garden and Barclays are not even in the same playing field. So fuck the Nets. For real.
Facts. I'm glad. I don't really want to talk about the game too much. The Knicks won 105-93. Mill did a post game. You can check that out. DiVincenzo, Deuce McBride, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Jalen Brunson all scored 17 or more points. That is a very well-balanced effort. Deuce and Devo. That sounds like it could be a cool rock band from the 80s or 90s or a two-man group. I don't know.
There you go, Vin. Rock
Deuce
band
and
T.
Devo. There we go.
Rock band T.
So, did you know at the Nets arena where we were sitting? So when they first built that place, there was this right when you walk in, there's supposed to be like a lounge open, right? Wide open, nice seats. We go there. I'm like, hey, I want to go get a beer down there. She's like, oh, this isn't open. This hasn't been open for a long time.
Yeah. Place is a disaster.
Well, the Clippers have something like that too, man. It's like they have like specific areas that like you have to be a millionaire, like $1 million season tickets, and they actually never sell them, and they just aren't full at all. Ange, let's get into the real topic at hand, though. So currently, the standings as of recording, before the Knicks play the Detroit Pistons, who they've beat 14 times in a row, and before the Cleveland Cavaliers play the Charlotte Hornets tonight, these standings are as followed. The Cavs are the 3 seed, 14 games back of Boston at 43-28. The Knicks are the 4 seed at 42-28, 1 half game or 1 win less than the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Orlando Magic are 1 full game behind Cleveland at 42-29, as in 1 game less than them, tied with the Knicks in the win column, and 1 more loss than both teams. But, huge thing for the Magic, they have the tiebreaker over both. They have the tiebreaker over the Knicks because of the head-to-head. They have the tiebreaker over the Cavaliers because even though they went 2-2 against each other this year, the next tiebreaker is winning your division. The Magic are number 1 in the Southeast. They are the division winners. The season ended today. The Cavs are second in the Central behind the Bucks. So therefore, the Magic, if all 3 of these teams end up tied, the Magic would be the 3 seed. But the Magic don't play till Wednesday. So let's focus on the Knicks and Cavs first. First off, do you think there's any chance the Knicks lose to the Pistons tonight?
Absolutely not. Fuck no. No shot in hell. I don't care. No shot in hell. I don't care who's out. Randall, OG, Mitch, doesn't matter. It's at the Garden. The Knicks know that the standings are kind of tight. And as the season rolls along, every game is important. And standings right now are important. And I don't know where we need to, Joe, you probably have a better idea than me, but I don't have an understanding of where we need to fall in order to avoid the Celtics in the first round, but that's the only thing that worries me. Just avoiding the Celtics. We got to be 8th, right?
Yeah, and to avoid them in the second round, you want to avoid being 4th or 5th if you won your first round matchup.
So we got to be third, but I don't even think that's gonna. Do we play the Magic one more time, Joe? Or
No.
the series? The series is over. Magic won that series, right?
We don't play either of these teams again. We don't play the Cavs or the Magic again.
But we have the upper hand on the Cavs, right? We beat them.
We won their season series. We lost to the Magic.
Yeah, no. Listen, if there's any way we could avoid the Celtics in the second round, if we can match up with them in the Eastern Conference Finals, that's the NBA script, Joe. That would be ideal. But I think we're going to wind up matching up against them in the second round.
Against who?
I think we're going to match up against the Celtics in the second round.
Oh, so you think you think we're not winning this race? Basically, you don't.
I don't think we're getting to third. I don't think we're going to get. I think they're going to really err on the side of caution with OG. Right. I hope even if he comes back, within the next few games, that he doesn't play back-to-backs, or they got to manage that injury correctly going into the playoffs. So I think they will not gladly, because Thibodeau wants to win every regular season game. I think they will manage their way through, and if they fucking lose a couple of games at the end of the season, the most important thing for us is to get into the postseason healthy.
I agree. I do think health is definitely first and foremost number one, whether you're third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. Avoid the play-in, which I made this clear before. I'm not worried about the play-in, but at this point,
Are we a lock out of it, Joe? Technically?
No. They're 3.5 games up on both Miami and Philly. We play Miami still one more time, as we're all aware. When we get into the injury guys later, I'm going to mention that I think we should avoid Miami for those guys.
Yeah.
Because we all know what Miami seems to do when they're playing players that seem like they have injury problems. To go into their matchups, though, the Knicks next four, I'm going to say the rest of each of their marches, right? So the Knicks play Detroit tonight at home. They're at Toronto on Wednesday, potentially with no RJ and IQ, which they both have suffered losses in the past couple of weeks. IQ's lost his uncle, and RJ very tragically lost his younger brother, which, for all the criticism we give people as NBA players or just athletes as a whole, to suffer losses in any sort or fashion is terrible. So we wish them the best, and we're sorry for that. We don't know if either one of them are playing, though. We're at San Antonio, which has literally become Victor Wembanyama and a whole bunch of guys that might not even be in rosters. I mean, some of them are. Sohan, Vassell, Keldon Johnson.
What about Osman? I like Osman.
Cedi Osman? Cedi Osman, man. He's good for 6 minutes and for ruining someone's night in the playoffs for a 3-point barrage one time. Cedi Osman is just worse Dean Wade, you know?
Joe, the only reason I remember Cedi Osman is from a picture from, I don't know what summer it was. I don't know if it was the summer after Kawhi won the chip to Toronto or the summer after that. They worked out in LA. I believe they were at UCLA. It was KD, LeBron, Cedi Osman, and a trainer. And I just remember saying to myself, why the fuck is Cedi Osman in this picture with Kevin Durant, with LeBron James, and Kawhi Leonard? Why did he belong on that court with them working out?
Dude, if you're in the NBA, you're in the NBA. You're one of the top 0.001% in the whole world.
Who's got Cedi Osman's number out of that crew, Joe?
He's been on James Harden's team before.
James Harden wasn't there. It was Kawhi, LeBron, and KD.
Oh, he's been on LeBron's team before.
He shouldn't have his phone number. Don't bring him to runs at UCLA. He's not good enough. That's disrespect.
Ange, I think you're disrespecting how good an NBA player is just because you know the top 3 players' names. Thanks to everyone in the chat so far. Anyone on Instagram or Twitter, we appreciate you watching. Obviously on Twitter you can leave comments, but we always appreciate everyone coming over to YouTube. Hit the like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We got some people going. Bob is always a great listener, and he was on the show last time for when we do. We're going to try to do open panels at least once a week. This is the one time I want the Hornets to win tonight against the Cavs. The Hornets and the Cavs have a home and home in the next 3 days, which is, if there's ever a time to cheer for Miles Bridges, which is very, very hard to do knowing what he's done in the past. I guess now would, in essence, be pretend you don't have morals and be the time. So the last 4 games, though, for the next, it's Detroit, Toronto, San Antonio, and home for OKC on Sunday. What do you think the Knicks go this weekend before we get into the Cavs?
Detroit, Toronto, San Antonio, and what's the last one, Joe?
The Thunder at home on Sunday.
We got, 3-1 would be ideal. Lose to OKC.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can get 4-0.
I think we could get 4-0. OKC's tough.
Winning the first 3 is mandatory. You can't lose one of these games.
Joe, to me, everything's an extra right now because we went 3-1 on that West Coast trip, and to me, 2-2 is like
Yeah, same.
ideal.
Same. I mean, dude, if you can, no matter what they do, OKC win or lose, if you go 3-0 with the first 3 teams, literally the second worst, the 5th worst, and the 3rd worst teams in the league, like, you got to just win these 3 games. No ifs, ands. None of them are back-to-backs. They're all every other day.
Right.
You got to win these. The Knicks for the rest of the year have the 18th toughest schedule. None of these 3 teams have a tough schedule left. The Cavs, a half game up on the Knicks, 1 game up on Orlando. They don't have either tiebreaker, so if this ever gets to a point tied, the Cavs are kind of screwed. They have this home at home against Charlotte tonight and Wednesday. They play home for Philly, and they're at Denver on Sunday. Mobley is back as of last night. Donovan Mitchell might be out for a while still. The newest report is that he's prioritizing the playoffs for his return.
Joe, he's not right.
Which sounds like to me he's missing at least till the middle of April, Ange.
Joe, he's not right. I read a quote, and he's just like, what I got out of it was him saying, I don't remember the exact quote, but what I got out of it was like he's not able to give what he normally gives. You know, so that means to me he's hurt. He's hurt.
I mean, he has a knee problem along with Tristan Thompson elbowing him in the face and him needing like nasal surgery. Like,
yeah.
Tristan Thompson's first game back from a 25-game suspension, he grabs a rebound and elbows his best player on his own team in the face.
Idiot.
Hilarious. So they play Charlotte twice, Philly and Denver. What do you think they go this week?
Charlotte twice, Philly and Denver. I mean, I hope they go 2-2. Man, I hope they go 0-4, but 2-2 would be ideal as long as the Knicks go 3-1, Joe.
Yeah, because then we pass them.
And then we pass them.
Make up one game, you pass them. That's all that matters, and that's for the rest of this month. And then the Magic, who are actually the Knicks have 12 games left, the Cavs have 11, and the Magic have 11. The Magic don't play again until Wednesday, actually, so they have a 3-day break right now, which is nice for them. And again, they have both tiebreakers, which rough for both us and Cleveland. They're home for Golden State on Wednesday, home for the Clippers on Friday, and home for Memphis on Saturday.
Tough.
So 3 games of 4 nights, but all at home.
Tough games. Even what was the last game, Joe?
It's Memphis. That one's not tough.
They play hard though every night. They're going to give you a good shot.
They are.
Listen, if they could go 1-2, if they could go 1-2, again, ideal in the Knicks' perspective.
My dogs are fighting right now, which is very exciting.
Yeah, that sounds good over there, Joe.
They're doing great. You just
throw them a greenie or something.
I was gonna hit them both in the head, honestly.
No, it's okay.
Tap them on some tops with some treats. So yeah, I mean, dude, they go 2-1. It's whatever. I think they're gonna go 2-1. Honestly, I think they're gonna beat Golden State and Memphis. I think they might lose to the Clippers. Going 3-0 would suck and be very disappointing for both Golden State and LA to go to Orlando, where, I mean, much like the Knicks do when they go there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Warriors and Clippers fans in Orlando. Maybe not.
Sure.
A lot of Warriors fans in Orlando. Like,
sure.
Not exactly a place that people go to that have a major home field advantage.
Sure.
If we can get in the 3 seed by the end of this weekend, man, that 3-1 gets you there. Can you be in the 3 seed by April 1st is all that we're looking for.
Listen, Thibodeau's going to win. Thibodeau's trying to win every game, regardless of who's on that court. That's all. That's how the team is made up, Joe.
100%. Bob goes. He thinks we can go 4-0. If we have OG, we can definitely win. We are going to get into OG. We're going to start with some good news, then get into the OG Randle thing afterwards. I don't think OG will be back this week. I want him to miss a little bit, but it's whatever. Matt Cohen goes, we have a nice, easy stretch of games. Magic have a West Coast trip. They could struggle, and we hopefully pull away. It's not this week, obviously. All 3 of their games this week are at home, but they do have a trip coming up soon. Eugenia goes 4-0, baby. OKC is tough. Just bring Julius back. I don't think Julius is playing again for a while. JJ, what up? How's it going? And then again, anyone on Instagram, Twitter, do you comment on Twitter, Instagram? We can't really see your comments. Come over to YouTube, hit the like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for everyone tuning in. We have 192 watching right now, probably mostly on Twitter. So if you want to come over to YouTube, it always helps our channel a little bit.
Hey, Joe, before you go any further with your topics, Now that this season kind of played out and we have an idea of where we're at and what we're going to look like in the playoffs, regardless of whether Randall comes back or not, but it seems like OG and Mitch are a lock to come back some way down the line, somewhere down the line.
Yep.
If you remember the poll at the beginning of the season, you know how the NBA does that like poll, who's the best player or whatever, who's the best guy at the bench.
Yes.
If you looked at this season's poll, one of the questions I believe was who is the least likely coach you would want to play for or something like that, something along those lines. And Thibodeau's like, I don't know if he's at the top of the list or he's right there.
He was number one. Yeah.
He was number one. Okay. Now, thinking about it from just like the perspective of this team, from a person like you that creates the content, from a person that like you who watches interviews and sees this team play night in and night out, what are your thoughts on how that poll plays out and how you see this team every day, the camaraderie, the tandem of Jalen Brunson and Tom Thibodeau, how connected they are? What are your thoughts on how you feel about that poll and where it stands in your perspective?
I think that obviously they did a real poll. They asked actual players. They got some real answers out of people. And if we asked Cam Reddish, he probably said Thibodeau is the worst. If we asked Kevin Fournier, probably said Thibodeau is the worst. Maybe if we ask Quentin Grimes now, he'll say Thibodeau is
Obi Toppin.
Obi Toppin might say Thibodeau is the worst. And all these, if you're answering this question, I don't know if they make players you can only answer a coach you've already had, right? That might be a caveat that exists.
Right.
And then if you're one of these guys that have only had 2 or 3 coaches, and it's like, do you hate the coach in your current team or your prior team? Well, I'm not going to say my current team. I don't want that to get out.
Right.
Do you hate the guy that played you 6 minutes a game over the guy that played you 14 minutes a game? No, I like the guy that plays me 14 minutes a game more. Do you dislike the guy that has this system, has this idea of how basketball should be played and the intricacies behind it, and they don't necessarily mesh or work well with your specific skill set, and what you think he does might be antiquated to 10, 15, 20 years ago, but you're more of a modern player or whatever you want to think.
Right.
And again, you're not going to vote for your current coach. Then yeah, Thibs has coached a lot of guys. Thibs is one of the few guys that coached enough guys that could probably get enough negative votes in order to get first place in the first place. So
but Joe, I also think it's one of those things where like you don't know really how he is until you're in it with him. So I'll just bring it to on the basketball court. Like they always talk about like these tenacious kind of players that are like kind of in your face, rah-rah, like a Patrick Beverley. They always say you hate him when you play against him, or when he's on your team, nothing better.
Right.
So that's how I kind of compare the Thibodeau and the pool of NBA player situation as from the outside looking in, regardless of the players like Obi, Grimes, regardless of those players, from the outside looking in, it could look like, you wouldn't want to play from him.
So I want to ask you a question based on the players that have played for him before. What do you think Zach LaVine and Karl Anthony Towns think of Thibodeau? Because they're better than Obi or Grimes or any of them. They're both all-stars.
I think that they were young in their career, and you brought up the modern day player, right, Joe? And I'm going to bring up the modern day person. Not everybody is going to align with the mentality of Tom Thibodeau, who's born in a different era and is used to coaching guys who are fucking fierce and, tough and put in the work. And just people in general, Joe, are just different nowadays. Even though you got an NBA player that is making $50 million, he might have other interests in his life, and it's not just basketball.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that upon I remember Kevin Garnett was talking about Andrew Wiggins, I believe after he retired. And he was like, I remember he was talking about, he was trying to like push Wiggins when he was on the Wolves, and he couldn't really get to him, like connect to him the way he could connect to other players with his personality, his voice, his rah-rah mentality.
Yeah.
And I remember KG saying like, Buddy has other interests in life, and I can't be mad at that. That's just the change in the evolution of people, Joe.
100%. I do want to give a testament to Thibs as a person and a coach that has seemed to adapt. 2 things. 1, like Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart have a podcast now that they're doing during the season. Dante DiVincenzo was on their podcast recently. He did another super random podcast that we stumbled upon that on a page that had like 30 followers recently.
Yeah.
And like there are guys that are doing things outside of the basketball court during their off time or like after they're out of the gym in the morning, after practice, that Tom Thibodeau 10 years ago just I don't think is letting happen. Or he's definitely reaming them a new one when they show up to practice the next day. You're not all locked in. Why are you not all team first? We got to win every game. First in, last out. What are you doing podcasts? What are you doing making content? This is your life. You don't need to make content. This is your life. But now, Thibs, maybe with this new age, maybe just like throwing and adapting with also understanding how newer, younger people are, he actually isn't the worst at letting them do that. Another thing that I feel like Thibs has gotten better at now that we don't think he actually necessarily had in him about 5-10 years ago. We talk about how there's been a lot of things recently about like guys getting too many minutes again. This whole Josh Hart's playing 45 plus. Deuce McBride's playing 48, which by the way, Deuce McBride playing 47, 48 minutes. The guy is still averaging 23 minutes on the season in 50 games he's played. He's 23 years old. He didn't play for the first third of the season. At these last 3 games, he played 40 plus. The 5 games prior to that, he played less than 25. He's not overworked. I'm telling you.
Joe, when you're young and you're playing basketball 15, 17, Joe, did you play any organized ball?
No. But I played
Joe,
for hours a day.
Okay. If you were to play ball and you had subs, you don't want to fucking come out the game, Joe.
Never.
Who wants to come out the game?
Never.
If you listen to the Deuce McBride interview after the last game, he's like, he didn't even want to look at the bench because he didn't want to get any idea if he was being taken out or not. They want to play.
Always. And to that point, what Thibs has adapted, and I don't think he would have done 5-10 years ago, Isaiah Hartenstein has played on a minutes restriction for like about the last 25 to 30 games. And there's maybe been 2 times the span's gone over 27, 28 minutes in those like 25 to 30 games. I don't think Minnesota Timberwolves' Tom Thibodeau is actually listening to the training staff or listening to the medical team to make sure Isaiah Hartenstein isn't hitting that 30-minute threshold that they seem like they're trying to avoid. And now he is. And I just don't think we've actually... I know you know this in the past. I've obviously admit this at this point. Like, I doubted Thibs' ability as a 63, 64-year-old guy to the old dog, new tricks analogy of becoming a more adaptable person, both in coaching and in life in various ways. And it seems like he has, way more so than I ever thought he would have. And I think the Isaiah Hartenstein minutes threshold and him and Jalen and Josh actually doing this podcast and not being the worst thing ever for the team or anything are 2 major testaments to him as an adapted person.
Joe, now, and this is a lot of good coming out of you talking about Tom Thibodeau, because I remember where we stood early on in the years of Tom Thibodeau. You weren't shy about him, right? So has your perspective changed upon him from when he became a coach to now? Here's my thing, Joe. You know me. I'm going to support 1,000%, even like if the person sucks, the player sucks, the coach sucks, I'm going all in. So eventually, to me, I'm never going to be wrong. If I eventually become right, it's like I was never wrong anyway, because I'm all the way in regardless. So at this point, even to say if people felt a kind of way about Tom Thibodeau early on, I still supported him. So now that it seems like the tide has finally changed, look, I'm right. Finally.
I mean, you're not, but the thing is, Ange, like, this goes back to, like, our overall viewpoints as fans. Like, you're not right yet. You know what I mean? Like, have the Knicks won a title.
Your perspective. Like, that's your...
If the Knicks, let's put it this way. If the Knicks have Tom Thibodeau as their coach, like, they give him an extension, he gets, I don't know, a 3-year deal after this, so 4 more years. So he's the coach for the next 4 years at whatever amount of money. Who the hell cares? It doesn't even count towards the salary cap, so I'm not going to talk about coaching income. The next 4 years, they never make it past the second round. Do you consider Thibs like the most, like, what would you quantify that as from a success standpoint or not?
He's probably still going to be one of the most winning coaches in Knicks history.
Sure.
Joe is
Evan
Patrick.
Fournier leads the team in 3-point percentage first, or 3 points or 3-pointers in the season. Does that mean he was a great player?
Okay, Joe. So does Patrick Ewing belong in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vin, I'm typing. I said I don't know. It's like this kid's waving at the camera.
Vin should just like actually be willing to. Are we on topic too? Don't worry, Vin. I got it. Don't worry about it. Go ahead. So yeah. Go, Ange. Keep going. What you were saying?
I kind of lost my track of thought because I seen like a waving hands from Vinny. What was I talking about again, Joe?
So I asked you if like Thibs just made it to the second round of the playoffs the next 4 years. And
yeah, I'm gonna. He didn't get past the second round.
He never gets past the second round in the next 4 years.
I still believe it's a successful tenure only because there was nothing else prior, really. There's nothing there. There's no substance to any of the prior coaches. So in the grand scheme of things, it will be successful. Like, okay, Joe, let's just say that comes to fruition, exactly what you said. In 15 years from now, 10 years from now, Thibodeau comes courtside at the Knicks and they put him up on the screen. He's going to get a really loud ovation.
Sure.
Does Patrick Ewing belong in the Hall of Fame even though he didn't win a championship?
Yes.
Why? He didn't win a championship.
Because he's one of the best of all time. It doesn't matter. I mean,
so what? So Thibodeau's one of the best coaches in Knicks history.
There are different levels to.
Why?
Why are you screaming, dude? Too loud. Although I do like that you're wearing your headset. Now that I actually think about it, you can move around, and I've noticed that this is helping out way more.
Well, I adjusted my mic settings too. Like,
who's a better player all time? Charles Barkley or Stephon Marbury? Now, I'm not asking you to think about like what you watched as a kid. Just like notably, who do 99% of people think was a better player? I'm gonna guess they say Barkley. I didn't watch him. I don't like to comment on players I didn't watch. I'm not trying to get you to like comment on past players or anything like that. I was just trying to bring up like a scenario where like everyone says this guy and not this guy. Neither one of them won a title though. You know what I mean? To the same thing. Like if I ask you who's a better NBA player all time, Charles Barkley or Robert Horry? Robert Horry won like 3 rings and is the whole thing is Big Shot Rob. Like made some of the best playoff shots of all time. Charles Barkley is still bar none one of the best players of all time, and Robert Horry is like one of the best 6 men of all time, which is cool. I mean, he won rings. He's that's awesome to have as like your feather in your cap. But like, no one's going to say Robert Horry is a better player than Charles Barkley. But Charles Barkley's in the Hall of Fame. It's not like if you're analyzing an individual player or coach on their overall success. Wins and losses obviously matter. Their skill set matters, all that stuff. But like from a sheer fan perspective, for me specifically, he has 7 rings. There you go, because he won more than just with the Spurs.
Man, I don't give a damn crap about Robert Horry, bro.
He was on the Lakers for a couple of them too. I'm pretty sure
he stinks.
But you know what I mean. So it's like it's not just about is this guy in the Hall of Fame because of how good or bad he was from like a team winning a championship standpoint. You can still easily identify who is a better player or who's a better coach otherwise. Coaching specifically is very finals and ring dependent, not only for them historically, but for them to even keep their job long term.
What'd you say, Joe? I lost you. Kind of blanked out. You blanked out. My bad.
It's okay. Eugenio goes, we're talking oranges and apples. Thibs will go down as a great coach regardless if he wins the chip or not. My whole thing is that I'm never going to say I'm fully wrong about the Thibs experience unless he actually makes the finals.
Joe, so everything is based upon championship for you?
For a lot of players and people, yes.
Okay, so if Jalen Brunson plays another 7 years with the Knicks and gets to 2 or 3 Eastern Conference Finals, maybe gets to the finals once, he's not, what do you consider him as? Not a successful player with the Knicks? He's going to be looked at as the god if he ever gets to the end. He might be a god if he gets to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I would consider him a successful player with the Knicks, sure, but would you consider the 5th best player on those Knicks teams a successful player with the Knicks, yes or no? At some point, it falls off the list.
No, yeah.
That's what I mean.
No.
But if if Mitchell Robinson is on all these teams and like he ends up like hack a Mitch keeps happening in the playoffs and he keeps working over and over again and they end up losing some of those games because Mitch can't hit a free throw, right? Just as an example. But like that, he doesn't become a successful Nick to me, like all term in my eyes, because he was like the 5th or 6th best player on this team. And he constantly, a main fault of his, made them lose playoff games.
It's hard.
But if he wins one title as the 5th or 6th best player, he immediately becomes a successful Knick. Everything else doesn't matter. If the Knicks won a title and Daquan Jeffries is the 15th guy on the bench, he mattered to them winning a title team for practice, for training, for all that stuff. He is a successful Knick.
He's always. It's hard to gauge this conversation because we had nothing prior. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the team and everything else prior. Like, I'm tired of talking about the 2013 Knicks. You know what I'm trying to say, Joe? Like, the 2013 Knicks are already 11 years ago. Yeah. It's just like I'm over them by now. I love Melo, great, awesome, but like anything after that and prior to that, there wasn't much to it. So to me, I look at it as right now, I consider this team and this coach to be successful because of what we've had prior.
If you always compare it to prior Knicks history, then yes. If you compare it to prior overall the best of NBA history, then that's the difference.
Fair.
So let's get on to the next topic though, because I love that you just deep dove me into Thibs. You really made me twist the knife.
Yeah. That was the whole point.
Yeah, I like that.
That was the whole point.
So Ange, I mean, Deuce McBride's been discussed ad nauseum over the past like 72 hours, honestly, for the past couple of weeks, and very rightfully so, right? You know what I mean? Like, this dude has worked his ass off. He's deserved it. And what's funny to me, because as you know, I was one of the leaders of the Deuce train. There weren't a lot of us at the beginning. I was on this like 2 years
ago. I wasn't with him. I wasn't on it.
It's been a while. You could go back when we had 12 listeners on YouTube, like 2 years ago when we didn't have thumbnails. And I'm literally like, we need to give Deuce McBride minutes, man. I swear to God. I'm going to throw a question to you. I'm going to lay out some numbers, and then I'll let you respond. Has Deuce McBride officially made up for what New York has lost in Grimes and Quickly, is the question. And now here's the numbers to follow up his ascent. I'll be quick. Deuce McBride in his career played 7 regular season G League games. In those 7 G League games, he's averaged 28 points, over 10 assists, over 5 rebounds, and over 2 steals. And the thing that made me believe in him the most from he's doing this in the G League at 21-22, it's going to translate at some point. He shot 48% from the field, 49% from 3, and 76% from the line, which, whatever. He made almost 50% of his threes on over 8 attempts a game. If you add in the 8 Showcase Cup games, which for anyone that doesn't know, the G League is basically like the trial and error, throw a dart at the dartboard period for the NBA. So the G League has had the Showcase Cup for 3 years, and then they brought the NBA in-season tournament to the league after they tried it out. If you add in those games where players try harder and they actually take it more seriously than the regular season, even in the G League, it happens at every level. He averaged 24, 7, and 4 on 47, 44, and 100 splits. So all of his G League games put together, he was shooting 47% from 3. His first 2 years in the league, in the actual NBA though, remember, he was shooting 47% from 3 in the G League. He only shot 33, 28, 16, 19% less in the league, and 67% from the line in his first 2 years in the NBA. So my whole thing about always believing in Deuce was that this dude is shooting almost 50% from 3 in the G League at 22 years old as a second-round pick whose primary sport throughout his life was playing quarterback. He played quarterback throughout high school and then started switching over to playing point guard his like sophomore or junior year. And then went to West Virginia as a college basketball player that they also almost wanted to play on the football team still. I always felt that his shooting was going to translate at some point. It was always a confidence thing. And now we're finally there. And he's making less than $4.5 million over the next 4 years. So, Ange, I ask you again. Has Deuce McBride made up for whatever Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel Quickly is giving to the Knicks? And if not, is he going to get there?
I think if you base it on value, right, Joe, you like to bring in money and value upon, like, that's a lot of your perspective almost. So if you look at it from that perspective, fuck yeah. Where are you going to find the guy making that amount of money and producing these kind of numbers? It's not It's a rare fucking thing, and it's almost like, Joe, to me, it's like almost maniacal how the Knicks kind of manipulated that whole situation. So maybe this whole time they knew what they had in the treasure chest while they were working on, okay, maybe we got to trade quickly in RJ for OG. And as soon as they pulled that trigger, 3 years, 12 million or whatever it was, 3 years, 12, Joe?
Something like that. Yeah. Extension.
Yeah, so as far as making up, I mean, he's just a great piece to what we already have going. There's still more pieces to this puzzle. I think when the team is at full form, hopefully we could get one more guy this summer, or if not in the middle of the season or next summer, he could probably be sixth man off the bench, Joe, on a championship caliber team. You're a big Devin Booker guy. Devin Booker slides into the 2. Deuce comes in and is his backup, can play primary guard or play off ball. So there's many different variations of Deuce that we can see with years to come. And credit to Deuce, the work shows. And to me, a player in his situation, Joe, and from watching basketball all these years and just knowing how Thibodeau likes his teams to play, if you want to get on the court, play defense. Everything else will come after that. So if you gain the trust on the defensive side, eventually, shots are going to start falling. What the fuck do you do in practice? You shoot, you shoot, you shoot, you shoot, you shoot. He's got one thing he's great at. Defense. Joe, if Deuce McBride, I tweeted this. I don't know if you've seen this. We tweeted this. I got to reword my wording sometimes because Vinny yells at me. We tweeted this as a brand. If Deuce McBride played the same amount of minutes as he's playing right now, maybe even a little bit less since the beginning of the season, would he be in the running for most improved player?
There's a strong possibility for that. I think he would be able to be close. He would be top 10 for sixth man of the year at least.
Whew.
I mean, Malik Monk seems like he has it on lock. He's averaging almost 20 points per game. And Malik Monk's going to get a bag this offseason. But
yeah, he is.
But I think he would be up there for one of those. You know what I mean? It seems like most improved has gone to like guys that go from like starter to all-star at this point. I do want to ask you two things real quick. So just Nick's comments, not in regards to has Deuce like proven it like to make up for Grimes or Quickly yet. Not yet. He needs to perform in the playoffs, or you really can't say he was better than Quickly or Grimes. I do want to say, so last year in the postseason, for anyone that forgot, Emmanuel Quickly was bad and then got injured. This man shot 34% from the field. He shot 24% from 3. And a lot of them, if you go to like Cleaning the Glass or NBA.com advanced stats, a lot of them were wide open catch and shoot threes. And I know we all make fun of the Cavs for the lights getting too bright and Jared Allen having that quote. And Emmanuel Quickly kept his defense up. He still ended up with a plus 20 in the time he was out there. And he still had decent off-ball defense. But the lights were too bright for Quickly shooting too. And he definitely had that as a problem to make less than 1/4 of his threes in the postseason. So I don't actually think it's going to take too much for Deuce to do better than either Quickly or Grimes in the postseason. Grimes' best time in the postseason was that one play where he hurts his ankle and then pickpockets Jimmy Butler anyway for game 2 when they won. And Grimes didn't have a lot of big scoring nights or big scoring seasons either. So I don't think it's going to actually take Deuce McBride too much to get beyond the point of doing better, not only than them in the regular season from a dollar value standpoint. Obviously, he's not better than IQ yet from a performance standpoint, but when you count the value he's going to get versus IQ getting 25 mil plus mil next year, him doing it better in the playoffs isn't going to take that much. And
but also, Joe, I don't want to temper Nick's expectations, but like, you can't just expect a player to just perform like extremely well in the playoffs. Like, look what's happened to Julius Randle, like in his playoffs since he's been with the Knicks. It's been like a fucking roller coaster, no? So even if he doesn't have a good series or he has a couple of bad games, guys, this is part of the experience of the NBA. This dude's a kid. And it's crazy. I look at these guys, Joe, and I'm 31 years old, and I'm looking at like Deuce McBride, and it's almost like he looks and acts older than he is. And like, I'm way older than him. These dudes are kids. let them hoop, let them get the experience, let them make mistakes, and everything else is going to work out for itself. Plus, he's not the main core guy. Like, he's not like the main guy. So the expectations shouldn't be as high as they can get.
I think I want to throw something really funny out there just for people to think about and know. Jack, Ange, do you watch? You don't really watch March Madness, but Jack Golke, the guy, the kid from Oakland that made 10 threes round one, helped them beat Kentucky. Just to throw in perspective, two things. One, Deuce McBride is one of the first in, last out guys in the gym in the NBA. And his whole improvement is that they said he shot 500 threes a day.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Golke says he shoots 1,000 threes a day. And that's all this man does on the basketball court is shoot threes. Another funny thing about the two of them, which goes to show that like an NBA player and a kid just trying to make it through college and whatever, effort is effort regardless if you're making millions or $1. If you have that in you, you have it in you.
Yeah. The
other funny thing is that Jack Golke is 24 years old and Deuce McBride is 23 years old. So I just want to throw that out there.
Joe, the in life and anything that you do, if you, like, okay, Deuce McBride doesn't have like the height, you got to put in hours. Kobe Bryant didn't have like these God-given abilities to like jump really high and move really fast, but what did he do? He just put in the hours, thousands of hours, and eventually he translates to the court. So in Deuce McBride's perspective, point of view, guy's just been putting in the work. And look, it's finally coming to fruition after what? This is his third year in the league, Joe?
Yeah.
So, took a lot of time.
Time and effort.
And you know what, Joe? I'm sure it could be like a really frustrating process because when you're in the NBA, you're most likely, you probably were the fucking star on every level in anything you've ever done, athletic wise. So Deuce played football, he was probably the star. Deuce played basketball in college, he was probably the star. And then you come to the NBA and it's just like, I'm going to see fucking 150 minutes.
You're a training camp invite. You're a second round pick.
So to the process of like just not like worrying so much about your future and just taking it day by day and putting in the work, it could be frustrating. So credit to Deuce McBride for like that mentality of staying straight and staying on point. It's finally working.
Facts. Brooklyn Owens goes, should Thibs get paid more than Phil Jackson? Let's talk about it. Let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about Phil Jackson at all. X goes, Deuce's game doesn't necessarily translate to the playoffs. I think you're going to be surprised, man, especially if the Knicks get matched up with one of these teams that have a smaller guard. I do think Deuce McBride can harass the crap out of Darius Garland, out of Jalen Suggs.
Yeah.
Even Tyrese Halliburton, who's very long. I know Tyrese can shoot over him, but I think Deuce can make some people have some trouble. Offensively, maybe you're right. Maybe they close out better. Maybe his corner threes that are open. Maybe his wing threes that are open. He is a shorter guy. He has a high release, which helps, but we'll see. We'll see at the end of the day. Ange, a couple more things before we get out of here. The next thing I want to talk about is OG Anunoby, which I know is obviously another hot topic that we've all been having to discuss. OG has already been announced out for tonight's game against Detroit. He didn't play from January 27th to March 12th, for everyone to remember. He came back for 3 games. The first game he came back, he shot 2 of 5 from 3 and 6 of 11 against Philly. Looked pretty good. The next game against Portland, he had the moment where he reached for the ball. He had the screaming elbow. Didn't shoot well in that game. Went from there. Ange has to go harass his dog, so I'll just keep pitching it to everyone else. Didn't shoot well from there. The last game against Sacramento, he made the first jumper of the game. He scored the first 2 points for the Knicks against Sacramento. Went 0 for 7 after that and 0 for 4 from deep. So the last 2 games that OG played, which hasn't been for over a week now. His last game was March 16th. He's 1 for 11 from the 3, or 1 for 9 from the 3-point line. And he hasn't played since March 16th. Against Sacramento, he's out again. Do you think that people should be how much are you worried about OG Anunoby, and how much do you think people should be worried about OG Anunoby?
I think at this time of the year, everybody's beat up. Obviously, his situation is a little different. He actually had surgery. What bothers me most, Joe, is not the fact that they tried to push him and that he felt discomfort in that elbow. It's more about, to me, Like, what are we doing with these reports? Like injury management? Like, why are we like, just say what the fuck it is, post it on whatever platform you want. Why do you have Knicks fans guessing as far as what the injury is, as far as how long he's going to be out? We just want like clarification. How long he's going to be out. We want him to perform in the playoffs. So if he needs to fucking rest until the playoffs, just tell us. If you want him to play 5 games before the playoffs, just tell us. I'm sure they have an understanding and of an idea of how they want to ramp up OG. Just tell us.
And unlike how secretive the Knicks front office and the Knicks medical staff is with when their players aren't coming back, our shop is not secretive at all. You should go to bignickenergy.com. We have a bunch of really cool stuff there. We've had a sale going on. We were supposed to end it last night. I'm pretty sure Ange is going to end the sale within the next 8 to 10 hours. So get to bignickenergy.com. Make sure you check out the Brunson tee. We have Brunson 316 for WrestleMania season in the playoffs. Get some Dante. Vin's going to make some Deuce McBride merch very soon. We have a bunch of good stuff there. And we're doing a lot of good things, both on and off the court. And by on and off the court, I mean on Shopify and on content. So make sure you go to certain stuff at bignickenergy.com. We also have a sponsor coming soon. So everyone that's been tuning in and listening to us, wait for that to happen too. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we get to get rid of that little blue banner up there, finally.
No, we need more sponsors. Never get rid of it. There's more and more always coming. Andrew, I'm not worried at all. Straight up.
Wow.
Not even a little bit. I think they're being overly cautious because of how good they've been doing. The guy had the scream. He already had surgery. I think he's going to be fine.
Okay, Joe, so how do you feel about Randle?
I am worried. He didn't have surgery. He hasn't. OG came back for a few games, realized that he still was in pain, and the swelling came back even after the surgery and sat back out again. They're being overly cautious for the guy now. He actually played. Mitchell Robinson, we actually see and understand and identify his ramp-up process. They're being pretty clear with Mitch.
Yeah.
Randle is the most unknown of the 3 by far.
Joe, I think Randle's kind of like, he's taking it on his own hand. It's like, it seems like he's taking it in his own hands at this point.
Yo,
you know what I'm trying to say?
Let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
Do you even think he comes back?
Yeah.
I think he might miss the rest of the regular season.
I think he's just going to gauge it. I think Randle's day by day. I think he's just trying to straighten that shoulder as much as he can. I think Randle's the type of guy that will play through pain. I just think it's going to be a tricky situation. And it's something that Joe has brought up prior. He brought it up last season where does it become like, does it wind up hurting the team in the playoffs for him to be 63%? I don't know where I came up with 63. Let's just say 65%. 65% instead of who would take his minutes really? Who would be the guy that's, who would lose out?
They would play small a lot and have Precious play like 15, 20.
Exactly. So do you want 65% Randle or do you want 90% Precious at that point? So that's where it becomes like a tricky situation. But the man's fucking going through some serious pregame routines. We've seen him walking off the court drenched. So the guy's putting in the work. We're going to see what happens.
Ange, you've worked out. You've gone to the gym before.
Still do.
Exactly. You still do. I mean, and you had back surgery. You had to ramp your way up from physical therapy. You still have to do that.
Yeah, I'm still rehabbing.
Tell me you don't sweat immensely more from cardio than you do from lifting.
I don't really do cardio. I haven't really got to that.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I hope you do get there soon.
I don't need to. I don't really need to like do cardio. Joe, I'm on my feet 13 hours a day, 4.5 days a week. So it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The point I was trying to make is that you're saying Randle was dripping in sweat. I work out and I do both 30 minutes of cardio and then 45 minutes of lifting. I am always sweating significantly more after cardio than I ever am from lifting. Right. So this dude putting shots up and getting running in, he's not getting any contact on his shoulder. And that's what I'm really worried about. X goes, I'm sorry, but you're so far off with OG saying you're not worried at all. OG's injury is an injury that never really goes away and can fill up at any time. X, I haven't seen you really comment here before today, which I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the support. Hit the like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. My whole thing is that I feel like I'm an OG Anunoby defender and apologist at this point. I think a lot of people that are worried. You're saying you actually had the surgery and you had elbow problems before, which I want to pull it up. There you go. Let's talk about OG. I had a very similar injury to him and spent 6 years. My elbow still isn't the same. I don't know if you got surgery or not, which is supposed to obviously speed up that process. You don't have access to the best doctors in the world like athletes do. You're not. I don't know if you're in New York City or if you're going to NYU or New York Presbyterian or Westchester Medical Center on a significant basis at any point to actually make sure you have the top-notch stuff going on. But I'm assuming he is. And my thing with OG Anunoby is that he doesn't need to be 100% to impact the game the way he does. People that are like, I think the people that are the most worried about OG Anunoby, I think a little part of it is that they still miss RJ and IQ. There's still RJ and IQ fans that like think that was a terrible trade, that we got robbed, that we got rid of these two young guys, that should have been the future, that should have been here when the Knicks won titles. Even though all writing on the wall was that IQ definitely wasn't going to be here, but for RJ at least.
Joe, are you using I want to ask you this question. Are you using the OG Anunoby kind of injury history and status of this season so far? He's kind of been in and out the lineup since his surgery, obviously. Are you using this as kind of a way to negotiate in the summer?
I think there's definitely a chance that they actually are able to use this in a way that manages them to have to pay him a little bit less than they thought they were going to go in.
What's that going to be, Joe?
Like, dude, last year when they were talking about him getting extended from Toronto, he was talking $40 million a year. Which think of it this way: Fred VanVleet got $40 million a year. Like, people like scoff at numbers and stuff like that, and everything sounds terrible. And it's like the cap is going up, not down. OG Anunoby is willing to take a little bit of a discount to play in New York versus Toronto.
Yeah,
a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Let's say he gets paid $32 million a year, plus incentives he can get to like 36, 37 if he makes an all-NBA defensive team. Right. Or if they win a certain amount of playoff games. Right. And if you throw all-NBA defense in the contract, you have to play 65 games that year, or else you don't qualify in the first place because they made a new rule this past year. So I'm just not and Big Freeze, shout out to him. He said it on his podcast, on his live stream, and then the Dope Soul Knicks Talk live stream a couple of days ago. If OG Anunoby plays 50 games and they go 40-10 in those 50 games, two things. One, he missed 32 games that season, which sounds like a lot. But two, if the Knicks can't win 12 out of the next 20 games without him, is that on him or is that on the Knicks? I need this dude to help them get 40 wins a year. I need him to be ready in the postseason. And that's really it. He's not a dribble player. He's not a field player. It's all defensive effort and shooting. He's the prime ultimate 3-and-D guy. I don't need him to get Jalen Brunson reps to be good.
But still, you still want to see your best players on the court playing with each other. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, from a fan perspective and from just...
Yo, I got something to segue right off what you said, Joe.
By the way, shout out Toronto, man. Thank you for tuning in. And
shout out.
As you just said, you don't need OG Anunoby to get reps to be the player we need him to be. But on quite the opposite, we need Julius Randle to get reps to be the player we need him
100%, which is why I think I'm worried about him.
Now I want to bring this question up to you guys. This guy, Julius, as we saw from his first surgery coming into the season, had a very slow first couple games. We cannot afford that right now.
No.
We cannot afford that.
Listen, I'm saying this to I tell you guys all the time, my favorite people are that come into my shop are the older people that talk Knicks. So there's this one guy and he's just talking about Randle and we're chatting for a couple minutes and he's just like, he's a big Randle fan as well, but he said like the Knicks right now, like they have a winning formula, like the way they're playing, like the ball movement, the camaraderie of the team, the defense, everything just seems to be like coming together. Now, when you add Mitch and OG, those guys just kind of fall in line where they are. You bring back Randle, that formula gets flipped upside down. And it's not to say that it won't ever work because we've seen in January what happened when we had that lineup in with Randle, with Hartenstein, with Diva, with Brunson, and with OG. But you're talking there is a big adjustment period coming from where we are now and adding Randle back into that lineup. That's what worries me. So yeah, Vin, the adjustment, the ramp up, that stuff all worries me. And the pressure that he already has because of his past playoff performances. He's in a tough predicament.
A couple comments, by the way. AP goes, sorry, I didn't want to go to Eugenio yet. AP goes, I think Randle should get the operation. I think he's worried about them going on a run without him, and that makes him vulnerable to being traded.
I think,
I think we're
he's.
going to dive into way more in the offseason for sure.
Hey, listen, Joe, what'd you say? Maybe 8 months of PT. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't need surgery. Maybe it's just 6 to 8 months of PT and he can't.
But Joe, that's always a if. That's it. Like, let's just say he gets to the 8 months.
And then he needs surgery anyway. You don't know. Eugenia goes, how good is something that's free? Questions you should ask your doctor. I'm pretty sure he's talking to X about having free healthcare in Canada. JJ goes, we're not a title contender if Randle doesn't come back and be close to himself. I think we can all pretty much agree on that point that we need all NBA Julius Randle in order for us to really beat the Bucks or Celtics at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he plays or not is one thing. The ability that he's able to give based on his injuries, another thing. Is his playoff? I know his playoff situations. The first year he was double and triple teamed. He was never used to that. They game planned for him specifically. They didn't have Mitchell Robinson to help clean up the offensive glass. Sucked against the Hawks. The second year last year he went and hurt. Evan Mobley's a tough defender against him. Bam Adebayo's a tough defender against him. Again, he went and hurt. He had one good half and then got re-injured the game 5 against the Cavs in the first place. So he hasn't had any good playoffs. So while you can attest a lot of that to the playoff, the injury history and the situation, he also hasn't shown it in the postseason. So whatever you want to count it for, it is a very what-if scenario for Julius Randle, which is why I'm really interested in the whole what is going to happen in the offseason thing. I don't think we should get there yet, though.
Joe, has there, in your memory, has there ever been a situation like this that lies ahead, currently for this team right now, where a player of Randle's magnitude and the team's kind of rolling and they kind of need him? Has there ever been something like this before where a guy has come back and it kind of even made a bigger, better run, so to speak?
Ange, I know a lot of people dislike Bill Simmons, especially New Yorkers, for obvious reasons.
I don't care for him. He was one of my favorites when he was ESPN, Joe.
Yeah. I mean, but like one of the things he ever made up from a writer or like a storyline standpoint, it's called the Patrick Ewing theory. It's that the team lost what they thought was their best player, and then the team made the finals without him. The Houston Rockets are kind of going through a similar thing. It's that Alperen Sengun has been out for like 3-4 weeks now. And they're 9-1 since he's been not playing. Like,
I didn't know that.
Sometimes you lose a great player and your team just falls into place a little bit better. And then that player that you think is all-time great, or like one of the reasons why you're at where you're at, he's great individually. But
Miami played better without Tyler Hero.
That's not a great player.
A little
bit. But I mean, that's a great fit thing. Tyler Hero's a great scorer, but like, then he's out, and then the defensive intensity, the defensive philosophy, like fits in better. You know what I mean?
The reality of this conversation right here, Vin, is Joe subbing Melo. This is like a straight sub at Carmelo Anthony right now. Tell me not, Joe.
Not even a little bit. I didn't think about Carmelo at all during this conversation.
I thought that was a Melo sub, low key.
I didn't mention Melo once. Why would
I know. I'm just saying, like, low key, I feel like you have those same thoughts about Melo.
Dude, my whole thing about Melo is that the trade was stupid. I would just never traded for him.
I got to put a timestamp in here for Melo tangent or no?
No, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. We are on our last topic, though. Everyone that's been tuning in, we have 342 right now, mostly on Twitter, a little bit more on YouTube. Thank you, guys. Anyone that comes over to YouTube, like, share, subscribe, sub, we really appreciate it. Anyone that's tuning in, be sure to check out our merch store, beginningenergy.com. Ange is going to end the T-shirt and hoodie sales by the end of the night tonight. 25% off all hoodies right now, 20% off all T-shirts. Remember, no matter what happens this week, the Knicks have won 14 in a row against the Detroit Pistons. We will win again. Also, I'm pretty sure JJ said before, both Cade and Jalen Green are out, so we better win this stupid game.
No, you know who is in, though? Who's looking for revenge?
Quentin Grimes is – oh, you mean Evan Fournier? Because Quentin Grimes is also out.
Yeah, I might just show up at the game tonight.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, yes. No.
Dude, wear your Evan Fournier jersey, man.
I got the Evan Fournier haircut.
We got the same haircut. Exactly. There we go. So here, guys, I want to get to the last topic. It's partly Knicks related, partly not Knicks related. So, and then Ange, if you can, while I'm talking to give you some extra time, pull up the standings on your phone just so you know what you're looking at, and so you know what the actual potential matchups are right now. So, what matchups are you most excited to see in the first round for the NBA playoffs? Like any potential matchups that possible. Don't say you want to see the Nuggets Timberwolves, because that's not going to happen because they're too close in the standings.
I mean, I enjoy. Damn, I might get killed for this. Damn it. Damn. I want to see the Heat knock off whoever they're going to play first round.
I like how your screen froze and it froze with the little thumb.
Damn it!
Next to your head.
What is this? That pisses me off. But anyways, I'm sure I'll come back into play here in a second. But no, I'm going to see who the Heat play first round. Right now they're in 7th, right? Who are they playing? They're going to play Bucks.
If they win the 7-8, they would play Milwaukee. If they lose the 7-8, then they'd have to win to play Boston.
So I'm interested to see whoever they match up with in first round. Everything after that kind of don't matter because it's all a crapshoot. The standings could change day by day. Like the Knicks could fall into the play-in, Joe.
They could. Oh, and you're gone altogether. Let's try to add you back.
Yeah, I'm trying to shut my mic and then shut my camera.
To work.
Yeah.
Let's bring you back up. They could fall into play-in altogether. I'm not that worried about it personally. But they definitely could. I was going to say, so from the Knicks standpoint, while you're trying to figure out how to get your thing to work again, solely from an NBA fan, not from like a Knicks fan, not like I want to move on to the second round, which obviously I want to move on to the second round. But my favorite matchup from an NBA fan involving the Knicks standpoint would 100% be Knicks Heat. Hey, Vin, what's up?
Yeah, I don't want my baby.
Knicks Heat would be popcorn, storylines galore. We want revenge. I straight up want revenge. I know a lot of people are saying they're scared of the Heat.
All right, bring me back up.
I want revenge. And then from like, if I cared only about the Knicks moving on, whether they play the Cavs because of the matchup and the way they keep punking them, or the Magic or Pacers, because I never have faith in teams being young in their first playoff appearance and then just magically moving on to the second or third round from there. I think the Magic are going to have a lot of trouble scoring. I think the Pacers are going to have a lot of trouble stopping anyone, obviously. And I think the Cavs are who we think they are at this point. I think the Cavs would even lose to the Knicks without OG and Randle. I just think the Knicks punked them over and over and over again. But
Joe,
from a fan standpoint, I would want the Heat the most.
Joe, did you see George Niang's comment sometime this past week where he said
George Niang does a cool podcast, but no, I missed it.
Yeah, I don't like George Niang. He just says dumb shit. I don't know where he comes from with this type of energy, but he's like, I don't know exactly what the quote was, but he kind of just said like, nobody's punking us in the playoffs. Like we're going to put somebody on their ass. And,
he said that, I listened to the podcast. He said that on one of the Ringer things, which he wasn't on the Cavs last year, and he's a big big boy. That's kind of what.
He wants to be like the whole rah guy for the Cavs, and to me, that's just like corny because you're here like first year, you're trying to be this enforcer type guy when you're really not that type of guy. So fuck George Niang. Yeah, Joe, we're not worried about the Cavs, not even one bit. Like we just punked them, little bros, kind of like
they're soft.
Take a shit on their head. Type of team, like just not a good.
That's next level.
Yeah, not a good basketball team. Not afraid of them at all.
I have a question for you, Ange, because I know you're obviously like we're all diehard fans, but we all fan in different ways. If George Niang was on the Knicks and he said that, wouldn't you love it? Like, think if you were a Cavs fan for a sec and you did get punked last year, and now you have a guy on your team that has playoff history. Is he the best player? No, not at all. But he's been in plenty of big matchups in series. Don't you want him to say that? Yeah,
Joe, I'm dying for a player like that on the Knicks. Like, to me, I want Patrick Beverley, like that type of player, like on the Knicks, like after the whistle's blown, like in your face, like taking the ball, just put it in somebody's face, like all that extra things. Like that's something that the Garden needs. So yeah, it's something that I just spoke about on this show, how like he would be one of the players that like you hate to go up against, but love to have him on the team type shit,
Yeah. X goes, the Cavs are soft, the Knicks aren't soft. Blue goes, that's Julius Randle, which if he comes back, it definitely is, obviously. JJ goes, I want a goon.
Yeah.
I mean, Marcus Morris was a goon when he was on the Knicks. The Knicks just sucked at that point, but the only team under that worries me is Indiana. I'm really not worried about Indiana's like overall offense and the way that's going to translate in the postseason. I think with they're gonna get destroyed defensively over and over again, and I have more faith in the Knicks getting stops against Indiana's offense than I do about Indiana's defense doing anything to help out their offense personally. But I mean, we'll see one way or another. Eugenio goes, someone summon the ghost of Anthony Mason. From a non-Knicks standpoint, though, Ange, just to mention a couple other teams, and then we'll start wrapping up. Outside of the Knicks, I actually would love to see if Orlando and Indy played each other, because while I never have faith in young teams playing teams that do have playoff experience. I think for Orlando and Indy both to be the young up and comers in the East this year of like making their first playoffs in a while. And then they're extreme contrasting styles, right? Like Orlando is a top 2 defense, struggle scoring the ball. Like since they've like adapted the rules a little bit and allowed more contact, their average score is like 98, 94. The Pacers literally had a 153 to 145 game last night. So it's just like, it would be really fun to see them in the 4-5.
Yeah, and Tyrese Halliburton hasn't been playing all that well, huh, Joe?
No, he's played bad.
I got a nice sign-off question for both of you.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, Knicks ending. How does this Knicks season ends? Who doesn't come back? Where we land? Where it all ends?
Go ahead, Joe.
Vin, I had a whole thing. We were going to talk about other teams and like what the best matchups are outside of the Knicks, and then you're just like, "Hey,
I thought you were wrapping up. Go ahead.
No. This is the last topic. I don't know. I don't want to. I think that's good for next week though, for us to talk about like the worst case what if, because we're gonna win. We're gonna go 3-1 this week, and we don't have to think about negatives quite yet.
There we go, Joe.
Once Julius Randle gets news one way or another that comes out, then we can figure out positives or negatives. But until then, let's stay on the up and up.
There we go, Joe.
And who am I? It's a new day.
Yeah,
I haven't been on the horn. Any updates on Mitch Robb? He was supposed to come back, right?
He's out. He's out for the Pistons. They haven't really said much outside of that. Just they still ramping up.
I was basing it off of OG's. He came back full contact, missed 2 games, came back. I was hoping it was going to be the same scenario for Mitch.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, Bondi had the report yesterday that we're all still kind of sitting on. There's no major update Mitch-wise.
Knicks media always playing trickery.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the Knicks, the Knicks media, the Knicks, like it's all like ipso facto. Who knows what's happening? And then the only other matchup I'm actually looking forward to is that, assuming Miami does stay in the play-in, Miami-Milwaukee is always a great series. It's happened almost every single year for the past 3 years at this point.
Love it.
And no matter how good Milwaukee is in the regular season, how bad Miami is in the regular season, it's popcorn worthy every time. What do you think? The non-Knicks series, what are you excited to see maybe?
Yeah, no, I said before, Miami. Miami is the team. I want them to knock off somebody. Who'd they knock off last year in the play-in, Joe? Who'd they play last year?
So they lost to Atlanta in the 7-8, right?
Yeah,
and then they beat the Bulls.
Right.
So then they were the 1-8 seed, and then they beat the Bucks in 5, which was insane. Then they beat us in 6, obviously.
Would you rather like the Knicks be in that scenario where they like just manage their way through the regular season? Let's just say Brunson even sat out more games and we just wind up getting into that play-in scenario, but we had just the experience, like, these guys, we have some playoff experience on our team. Do you think the Knicks like fall in that category where they could kind of knock off a team like that, or you want them to get the best seeding that they could possibly get?
I've mentioned this before. I want them to get 3, 6, 7. I wanted them to get 2, obviously. I wanted to avoid 4 or 5. And I was never scared of like the play. I wasn't scared of the play because when it comes to a one-off game, and if they were to fall into the play, it would be against Philly, most likely. Like Miami would be the one coming up, and Philly still is playing poorly without Embiid.
Right.
I was never scared of Philly, New York in the 7-8.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I want them to get the 3 seed. The 3 seed's there for the taking. They have a really easy schedule for the next week at least. Say you go 3-1, the Cavs go 2-2, and you're tied with them. Say Orlando goes 2, like all 3 teams are basically knotted up at the end of this week going into April. The last 7 games left. Like,
yeah,
I want them to go for that.
I hate that Jimmy Butler just like doesn't care where he stands and it's just like down to go into the play-in and just fucking beat the crap out of these teams and just climb that roller coaster going into the playoffs, going through the playoffs. It's just fun to watch that team like just like not even give a flying crap about the playoffs. I mean the regular season, and just somehow become one of the best teams in the playoffs every single fucking year. Pisses me off.
Dude, I mean that's why like we always forget, and we can sign off with this. That's why we always I always talk about it, like as a Knicks fan, that we're not used to seeing like the playoffs and like what it really does to teams and what it does to certain players. And like everyone talks about how Josh Hart tries his ass off day in and day out, and Deuce McBride tries his ass off day in and day out, and like how that's like a really fun thing and like makes people like do the best for this team. And it's like, but you're trying when a lot of teams aren't trying. And then the playoffs, when they are all trying, it's not effort, it's skill. And that's where it comes into that.
Yeah, we don't have that leeway though as an organization, as just like we don't have enough backing.
Well, not with the injuries we have.
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to. Last thing, and then I'll let us go. Just real quick for the West, I want to see OKC Dallas because I want to see SGA Luka. I want to see Kyrie versus Jalen Williams. That seems really fun. Texas and Oklahoma always have good rivalries. I want to see Suns Clippers if that can happen. If the Suns can pass the Pelicans, because obviously that would be the most star-studded round one.
Pelicans
Kawhi.
show?
No. If the Suns could pass the Pelicans, I would want to see Suns Clippers. Kawhi, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. Like it's just a star-studded matchup.
Yeah.
That's the 4-5 or 3-6.
Yeah.
And then Sacramento Mini. Neither one of those teams have won a playoff series in 2 decades. So if they just go against each other in the 2-7, one of them has to win. So there you go.
Yeah, Sacramento's knocking at the door. They're ready to just get through that little wall that not winning a playoff series for that many years. They're ready.
Agreed. I mean, I don't know if it's this year, but they're getting there. AP goes, don't be surprised that Pat Riley trades Jimmy this summer, getting up there in age. Money is up there. I want to see Phoenix lose in round 1 and blow it up so we can land Booker. Same. You came to the right spot. Dallas beat OKC. Gino says I called it. And the last thing, once the Knicks are done, I stop watching. That's respect. I mean, I like watching the finals personally in the playoffs, but I know a lot of people are like that. And then you can move on to baseball season or the playoff or the summer, one way or another. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Ange has a meeting. Make sure to check out our merch. You can buy the I Survive shirt that Angelo has on right now, bignickenergy.com. We have a bunch of cool stuff, t-shirt sale, hoodie sale going on right now. It's going to end tonight, so make sure you check it out while you're there. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Make sure you hit the sub, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let's go Knicks and let's beat the Pistons tonight. Right, Ange?
Let's go, baby.
Let's go. Let's get out of here. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll talk to you all next time.